name's Ashlee. I work with my husband, Joe. We have our own wealth management firm. We work out of our house in Birmingham, Michigan. We're on the independent side of things, which means we're not tied to a wirehouse or a broker-dealer. We're considered a registered investment advisor, and we custody our assets with Schwab. We work with about 100 households, 100 families, and the average age of our client base is around 45.
What sustainable development goals are you currently working on?
And it's more so in the systems we build and the advice we give. That's how we look at it when thinking about the development goals. So one item I would maybe elaborate on would be just general economic growth. And I look at that by thinking through how we help clients make thoughtful financial decisions that support long-term stability rather than a short-term gain. Another way you might be able to look at the financial planning space is potentially reducing inequalities in some sense. Financial planning can be a powerful equalizer when it's done ethically and accessibly. And we're intentional about education, transparency, and meeting clients where they are, and really trying to bring down a lot of the stigma that comes from the wealth management space, that you have to have a certain level of assets or a certain level of income to work with an advisor. And the third item I might highlight would be just responsible consumption. And again, with a service-based firm, that does look a little bit different, but it does show up in how we run our business and how we think about capital. So even though we're not strictly ESG focused, we believe capital should be deployed responsibly and with an awareness of just its broader impact.
Mainly it's the focusing on, from how I see you all working at Gunder Wealth Management, is that in reality you're working to really break down barriers so that way financial success is accessible to all. And I really admire that because, like you said, it's not that, we only exist in the financial realm. It's like we also are educators in that, right? We help you to build up healthy habits that can really get you to your financial goals, whether that's buying a house or, starting your own business, right? It's really ensuring that you're working in tandem with the community, but also to really boosting up your team to understand that our value is we want to be educators so we can remove those barriers as well. What originally motivated your company to pursue B Corp certification, and how has that decision shaped your mission and culture today?
This one was my favorite. So I think it's the initial motivation, which I just mentioned, things that were aspirational in the past, but I think the initial motivation was to create some sort of an alignment with the B Corp's mission and values, and really to differentiate ourselves amongst other wealth management firms. I don't know that a client necessarily looks for that certification when they go to seek out a financial advisor, but I do like having it. I like having that as part of just our firm and our firm's mission. I think, to say that another way would be, it came from a desire to align our business structure with our values. And we didn't want those values to only live in our heads or in a mission statement. We actually, just on some, quote on our webpage of ours, we really wanted them embedded in how the firm actually operates. And I think over time, this decision's really shaped how we make future decisions. As an example, whether it's getting involved with our locals farmers market, or, we now do business with a local bank, or how we think about pro bono services. It's really influenced how we define success, how we make decisions. I think it really helps us, we don't just look at key performance indicators from like a financial perspective. It gives us other metrics to really track, whether that's client feedback or, like I mentioned, pro bono hours, or other ways that we're involved in the community. I think it's less about the certification itself and more about the mindset that it helps us approach other business decisions to make.
Yeah, and I do feel that having the certification does matter, right? I mean, a lot of times when I've spoken to other B Corps, but also just knowing yours as well, a lot of folks, when it comes to staying within the B Corp community or even working together as B locals, is that we know that our values are going to be aligned in some way, shape, or form. Essentially, the main reason is because we are working towards bettering our communities, but also our business, so we can ensure that we are hitting those sustainable development goals, which are set in place by the UN. And I think that is an incredible feat, just because you don't necessarily have to, right? And I mean, it's because you want to operate as a force for good. You want to ensure that when your clients are seeking you, that you are different than other financial organizations because you do your best to put people first, as well as understand as that business doesn't have to be done in a bad way. It can be done in a holistic way where it's benefiting the economy, the environment, the government, and really just overall the community in general. So I really do see that as a space where people can connect and come together and realize, wow, it's not just me only moving this work forward, it's all of us together.
And I think, when you think about all of us together, I mean, one thing that I like about that is that we all chose the harder path.
Yes.
On purpose.
Mm-hmm. It's because you want to do business differently. And I really applaud and admire that, because it is a hard assessment to finish. I mean, it takes every piece of integral data that shapes your business to really just, magnify that and watch it to ensure that you hit those goals. It is not an easy feat. But it's something that, again, shows your passion and your commitment to stewardship. Of course, yeah. So how has using the B Impact Assessment influenced concrete changes in your operations, such as governance, workers, community, or environmental practices?
So I feel like when we think about our operations, I mean, I could reflect on the score, although I realize that score is going away for our next renewal. I think about this and really formalizing policies that were fairly informal before, if that makes sense. I think that going through this process, we went through a lot of things of what we just assumed we were doing, but now we're actually formalizing and tracking them. If that kind of is a certain way to answer this question, I think it's pushed us from good intentions to more like intentional systems. So it was things that we were already doing, but really having no way of proving it or measuring it. I think the biggest shift with that came, more of a common language, like you described some of the B Corp language there on the score and whatnot, and structure. And I think instead of this just being an aspirational goal of ours in the past, I think it really transformed itself into making things more operational as far as tracking things and formalizing processes and procedures.
Yeah, like you said, and I really want to hit on that too, is the fact that you already have been working on a lot of these goals. The benefit of the B Impact Assessment that we know of is that it's a helpful tool that helps you to measure and track, so that way you can ensure that you are either on track with hitting that goal, or maybe you need to recalibrate and come back to the team to figure that out. And I think that, it's always, to me, it shows the passion behind the B Corp movement whenever I hear folks say, we've already been doing this, but it just really came down to we wanted a system that kept us accountable. And I feel that is one of the best business strategies for success, is by holding each other accountable to the overall mission and goals of the company, so that way it is working in a healthy movement, as opposed to just only focusing on some goals here and there, right?
Right. It really shifted it from being aspirational to operational almost.
Yes. And that's what I love to hear, and that's what it's for. It's to really just help you be a guideline, but you've already been doing it. So in actuality, it's just a relationship at this point.